She has over 160,000 followers on Instagram. She has modeled for some of South Korea's biggest brands. She has appeared in music videos, advertising campaigns, and magazine spreads. She posts regularly. She responds to comments. She has a personality, a style, a point of view. And she does not exist. Not in the way you and I exist. Rozy is a digital human, a computer-generated woman created by a Seoul-based company called Cider Studio X. She is 22 years old and she will never age. She is the opening chapter of one of the strangest stories in the history of fame. To understand why Rozy matters, you have to understand what an influencer actually sells. It is not a product. It is trust. When a real human being holds up a bottle of moisturizer and tells their followers it changed their skin, the value comes from the belief that this person is real, that their life is real, that their recommendation means something. Rozy should not work. She is openly artificial. Her creators announced from the beginning that she is CGI. And yet the brands came. The followers came. The engagement came. Something about her works, and the answer to why is more unsettling than most people realize. Rozy was unveiled in 2020. She was designed to look like a woman in her early 20s, mixed-race features chosen deliberately to feel global, to belong nowhere and everywhere at once. Her style is streetwear with a high-fashion edge. She poses in Seoul cafes, on rooftops, at the beach. Her captions are warm and personal. She talks about her mood, her taste in music, her favorite places to eat. She was designed not to look like a video game character but to sit at the very edge of reality, just real enough to feel human, just polished enough to feel aspirational. That gap is where her power lives. The brands took notice immediately. Rozy has partnered with companies across fashion, beauty, finance, and telecommunications. In South Korea she has become a genuine celebrity, recognized by people who know exactly what she is and follow her anyway. A survey of her followers found that many said they felt a real emotional connection to her. They liked her aesthetic. They trusted her taste. The fact that she was not technically alive seemed, to many of them, largely beside the point. This is the part of the story that the people building virtual influencers understood before the rest of us caught up. Parasocial relationships, the one-sided emotional bonds people form with celebrities, characters, and online personalities, do not require the other party to be real. They never did. People have formed intense attachments to fictional characters for as long as fiction has existed. What Rozy represents is the weaponization of that tendency. A company can now engineer a personality from scratch, optimize it for maximum relatability, and deploy it at scale with zero risk of scandal, burnout, or bad press. That last point is significant. Human influencers are unpredictable. They say the wrong thing. They get photographed in the wrong place. They have opinions that alienate sponsors. They get tired. They age. Rozy will never do any of these things. Her team controls every pixel, every caption, every partnership. She cannot have a bad day that leaks onto the internet. She cannot fall out with a brand. She is, from a business perspective, a perfect vehicle, and that perfection is precisely what makes her the future of advertising. By 2023, the virtual influencer industry was valued at over $4 billion. Analysts projected it could reach $37 billion by the end of the decade. Rozy was not alone. Lil Miquela, based in Los Angeles and created by a company called Brud, had already accumulated millions of followers and partnerships with Prada, Calvin Klein, and Samsung. Ima, a pink-haired Japanese virtual model, was working with IKEA and Dior. Shudu, created by British photographer Cameron James Wilson, had been mistaken for a real human by major fashion publications. A new category of celebrity had emerged, one that existed entirely within the logic of the internet, designed by committee, owned by corporations, and beloved by millions of real people. The questions this raises are ones the industry would rather not answer directly. Who is the audience building a relationship with when they follow Rozy? Not a person. Not a character in a story they chose to enter. Something in between, a commercial product wearing the clothes of a human identity. The emotional investment is real. The object of that investment is not. Whether that matters is a question each follower answers for themselves. What is not in question is that the technology is accelerating. Early virtual influencers like Rozy required enormous amounts of manual 3D rendering work for every image. The arrival of advanced AI image generation has collapsed that cost dramatically. What once required a team of artists working for weeks can now be approximated in seconds. The barrier to creating a virtual personality is approaching zero. Within a few years, any brand, any creator, any individual will be able to generate a photorealistic digital human with a complete personality, a curated history, and a ready-made aesthetic. The market will be flooded. When that happens, the advantage will no longer belong to the most realistic virtual influencer. It will belong to the most interesting one, the one with the most compelling story, the clearest point of view, the most distinct identity. And this is where Rozy's creators made a smart decision early on. They did not try to hide what she was. They leaned into it. Her Instagram bio says simply, virtual human. Her followers know. And that transparency has built a kind of trust that her more deceptive predecessors could not claim. She is not pretending to be something she is not. She is something new, and she is honest about it. There is also a darker version of this story. The more convincing virtual influencers become, the harder they are to distinguish from real people online. We are already in an era where synthetic media, deepfakes, AI-generated images, fabricated voices is eroding the basic assumption that what we see online corresponds to something that actually happened. Virtual influencers are the benign end of that spectrum. But they are normalizing a world in which a face and a personality online do not necessarily connect to a body in the world. What happens when that technology is used not to sell moisturizer but to spread information? That question is above Rozy's pay grade. But it is downstream of her existence. For now, she keeps posting. New outfits. New locations. New partnerships. The comments fill up with people tagging their friends, asking where she got her jacket, telling her she looks beautiful. Somewhere in a studio in Seoul, a team of designers and writers is crafting her next caption, choosing her next collaboration, deciding what she will care about this week. She is the product and the brand and the celebrity all at once. Rozy is 22 years old. She was 22 last year. She will be 22 next year. While every human influencer who came up alongside her will age, make mistakes, burn out, and eventually disappear from the feeds that made them famous, she will remain exactly as she is, perpetually young, perpetually on brand, perpetually available. In the attention economy, that is not just an advantage. It is a superpower. The age of the virtual influencer has begun. And the most interesting thing about it is not the technology. It is us, the real humans, choosing to follow, to engage, to feel something for a face that was never born. That choice says more about where fame is going than any algorithm ever could. Rozy doesn't exist. But her influence is completely real. And that changes everything.